Hey guys, this is Michael, teacher turned trucker, coming at you again. This week I want to talk about one that's very personal also, and I think a lot of us are going to find this personal because it's dealing with finances. The main topic is obviously going to be from the perspective of before trucking school. So there's a lot of things to consider. We're not going to get into everything. Maybe there'll be another video to come along with this one before trucking school because I want to keep the video a little shorter. I want to go ahead and say at the outset, if you have any comments or questions regarding anything that's in the video, by all means, please post them below. Give a like, it would help the channel to grow a bit, okay? So, first things first, before trucking school, right off the top, most people automatically assume that they're going to finance trucking school, okay? I realize that's one of the options. It is not the option that I personally have chosen. And if you guys remember back to the very first video, I talked about planning ahead. A lot of what I'm going to say today is going to be dealing with that idea of planning, okay? So the more you take time to plan at the beginning, the better positioned you will be in order to take advantage of some of these other options that are down below that we're going to come to. So let's go ahead and get started into the first one. All right, so there are generally speaking three options. Paying out of pocket, financing, or signing a contract with the employer-to-be to promise to say, hey, I'll work with you for 6 months, 12 months, 18 months, however long your policy is, and each month that I work with you, you'll kind of pay yourselves back or whatnot, or pay back my schooling or whatnot. So those are the three general options. Let's talk about them a little bit. We'll put paying out of pocket last because that's the one that's most obvious in many situations for the pros. So financing. Financing and signing a contract both have kind of the same downfall or shortfall, and assuming you have the option or can get to the other option. Financing is you consistently owe someone, so you have that constant payment, you're adding debt. You're basically just taking on debt in order to postpone and make money in the road. And I fully understand. Some of us have had to use debt. I went through college, I went through 2 master's degrees, and I used student loans. I racked up $90,000. It's a lot of money. It's a lot of weight to be on your shoulders. Obviously, trucking school is not going to be quite that much. It'd take a lot less time. But are you going to finance? If so, are you going to finance through the school, or are you going to go borrow money from a bank? I'll just let you know up front. I think this is the least likely or wise option between the three. Going into debt, borrowing it from a bank, you're going to have a high interest rate. So whatever you're paying is going to become even more. And then what happens if you get hurt at work or you find yourself in between jobs? The bank is not going to stop coming after you guys. Many of us have experienced the debt calls and stuff like that. So that's the first option. The second option is signing a contract with the school. If I'm not paying out of pocket, this is the one I'm going to do, but I'm going to try and be strategic with this one. This is where understanding some of your options within this choice go. So right now I'm kind of looking at 2 different employers because I want to go flatbed. One of them I know right away, if I were to go to them and train with them, they'd want an 18-month contract, but I wouldn't have to go to the school and pay $7,000. I could just work with them for 18 months. The other one, I'm not real sure. I think theirs is 12 months, and they would also train and whatnot. But what happens if you go through the school, you get your CDL, and then something happens the first week or two, you get in an accident, and they decide to let you go? The contract does not work both ways. They can hire you and fire you all in the same day. And they can fire you because someone calls in a complaint about you, and randomly, I mean, when you're a new driver, you're at their mercies. So signing a contract is indebting yourself. It's just a different form, and you're promising to work with them. Now, 18 months, I think, is on the excessive side. I just, as much as I like the company, it's not even whether or not I want to leave. I don't want that weight added to my shoulders just to get through the first 18 months because I couldn't stop and save up a little bit of money. Okay? Because you guys are going to find with me, finances is a passionate thing for me because I screwed up. I made a lot of mistakes. I got married when I was 41 years old. I brought $90,000 student loan debt into the marriage, and it was a hard first 2.5 years. My wife and I gave up just about everything we could, and we worked hard, and we used Dave Ramsey's plan, and we paid it off. And then we saved up our emergency fund. We'll talk about that either later this video or in another video. And by making those mistakes, looking back at them, I learned some things that I don't want to do. I don't want to be in debt to someone. Signing a contract is the same thing as being in debt. You're saying, I'm going to be under your authority for this long. I don't have the option of going elsewhere. So that's that one. Then the third one is obviously paying out of pocket. With this one here, I would actually try and leverage this. If there's somewhere I wanted to go work and they were willing to train me, I'd say, hey, look, instead of signing a contract for 18 months or 12 months, would you be willing to let me just pay out of pocket? You tell me how much your cost would be for schooling, and let me pay you out of pocket up front for the fee. And then if you want over the next year or 18 months, however long you guys normally do it, as long as I'm working with you, you guys are paying me back monthly for the amount that it costs for schooling. It's usually $100-$200 a month, I think, is what I've heard from people. That puts you in a better position because then you don't have to worry as much about something happening and you losing that job, because this is what I was kind of building towards. If you get fired and you owe that money, your last check, they're going to take pretty much all, if not all of it. And you're going to be given 30, 60, 90 days to pay the balance. They are not going to string it out for 18 months if you're not working for them. So you have to be mindful of that. That was, without this particular section is going a little long, but that became really clear to me. I was watching a video of another YouTuber, and he's talking about how he needed to make more money, needed to stay home closer, be home in the evenings or the weekends more with his family. So he ended up leaving a company, and they took almost all of his last check. My heart goes out for him. It really does. I pray for he and his family, and I hope that he's laying on his 2 feet. But at the same time, the trucking company's in a business to make money, okay? And if the trucking company is losing money, a whole lot of people are going to be out of jobs. So they have to make wise financial decisions from the perspective of the business. And that is a hard line to sell, especially if you've never been in management and you've never had to make those tough choices. Hey guys, this next section is going to be talking about single income, 2 income, where you're at in your life. Are you 21, 22, 23 years old, younger? Are you someone older like myself who's changing careers? All of these things factor in. A lot of us will know these, especially if we're a little bit older or you have someone maybe you've watched and can mentor you a little bit. But some things that you're going to want to look at if you're a single income, if you're a younger person, maybe this is the career you're getting into. You're going to want to look at saving the money up first. It's going to do a couple things. It's going to position you so that you're not in debt, so that you can work and all the money you get minus taxes becomes yours instead of minus the fees and the loan payment or whatnot you have to pay. So you're going to want to look at those. The next thing is, if you save up the money, it shows that you're a little bit more responsible with your finances. This is going to be big from everything I've seen in just living life. If you're someone who is going to be in the truck, and I can only speculate, If you're going to be in the truck, you don't have roots tied as much or as deeply. The money can easily come in and out of your hands very quickly. So you want to establish your fiscal aptitude and responsibility before you start trucking, before you start making the money. The second one would be those who are two-income households. These are the folks who you have to look at each other's income and say, hey, can we make it for 1 month, 2 months, 3 months? 3 months is that sweet spot on just your income, okay? Or do we need a little bit of help to get there? You need to be able to answer that question. You need to sit down and do that nasty word, a budget. You need to know what you have coming in without your income and what has to go out, the bare minimums. And then if you want to add any of the niceties on top of that, depending on your income, that's fine. But if you are looking at being going through school, that's 3 to 4 weeks most of the time, maybe 5. Training itself is going to be usually 5 weeks or more. And then we're going to talk about this a little bit later. How much is the training paying, or how much are you getting paid during the training? Some places it's only $100, $200. Some it's $500. Some it's $650. It depends. And then what happens if you're going to one of these carriers and their training, where you're riding with another driver, is 3 months, 6 months, or something like that, and you only get paid that minimum training pay during the entire time. So you have to be looking at these things and doing so by planning ahead. There's nothing wrong with signing on with someone and knowing I'm going to be in a truck with someone else for 3 months or 6 months, and I'm only going to be making $400 or $500 a week. Okay, there's nothing wrong with that. If you can still meet your obligations at home, for those of us who are family members or family, husbands and fathers, are we going to be able to provide for our family during that time frame? Is my spouse going to be able to provide and pick up the slack while I'm gone? Because that $500 that you're getting, I dare say a fair amount of that's going to be going to food and some of the supplies you're going to need on the road. Because if you're gone for 3 to 6 months, there's a pretty decent chance you're not going home every weekend. Those types of trainings, I can imagine being out for 2, 3, 4 weeks at a time. And that's a long time to be away. You have to take care of washing all your laundry on the road. You have to buy water, your essentials like your deodorants and cleaning. You have to pay for your showers. Some places or drivers may pay that for you if you get fortunate with the trainer. But there's a lot of those little things that you have to be mindful of. The big goal here, though, if you can plan ahead, you're in a much better position. You see the theme coming through? And I don't say that condescending, guys. I really don't. Just stop and plan. Think about it and look at your expenses. Be honest with yourself. Don't go with, well, the best case scenario, I'm going to get a job, so I only need a planner for 3 or 4 weeks. No. Plan with the worst case scenario in mind. What is the absolute worst thing, monetarily speaking, that could happen? Okay, you have a health policy. Your spouse or your child has to get some emergency surgeries or something done. You have to pay out of pocket for the deductible. That's usually $5,000 or $6,000 right there. Okay, so I need that money put aside, because if I'm making $500 a week and my spouse is only making about $500, $600, $700 a week, we're not going to make ends meet and be able to pay for that. So then I'm going to have to go into debt somehow to get that deductible paid. So now I have the added stress of a family member being in a situation. I'm on the road. I can't get home right away. I may have to buy a plane ticket, so that's more expense. So I think you guys get the idea what I'm talking about. So I want to wrap this up also talking about those of us who are a little bit further in life. For my position, my wife and I, we're not wealthy. We're not. But we try to make good financial decisions. We try to plan ahead. We really try not to make impulse buys. I, in the couple, am the one who is most prone to those impulse buys. And I know it drives my wife nuts. Fortunately, It's not big expenses that I tend to go out and buy. It's the little things, $5, $10, stuff like that. But know your positioning and plan for it. We have an emergency fund. Dave Ramsey talks about a $500 or $1,000 deductible or emergency fund. That's what we do. Okay. Then after that, aim for 3, 6, 9 months, depending on what volatility there might be in your finances in your home. Is there any possibility that if you have another spouse, or if you have a spouse, is there any possibility they maybe could possibly lose their job? If so, then you need to factor that in and extend that emergency fund and savings account. This does mean that sometimes perhaps you're working a job you really don't like, but you're making ends meet. You can save some money while you're there. You may have to push your start date for that school out 3, 6, 9, 12 months. That's part of being an adult and growing. We have to make those decisions. I mean, there's parts of me that once I made the decision, I wanted to leave my job and get started. But I had obligations and I had this drive within me. I committed, I'm going to finish it. So commit yourselves, guys, to saving the money if at all possible. If you're in a situation where you are flat broke, you don't have any options, you're either homeless or you're near close to homeless, then obviously the financing or signing the contract is going to be the route for you. But if you're in a job and you have the opportunity to save the money, just kind of hold your nose and get through that next however many months it is. Do yourselves a favor. Do that budget. See how much expenses that are the bare minimum expenses you have going out. And I'd also tell you to calculate also the average expenses. The bare minimum is what you have to have the roof over your head, food on your table, electricity, and transportation to your job. I believe Dave Ramsey has a saying for those, the 4 essentials or something. See what you need, and then from there I'd also encourage you to make that second budget and look at your average expenses. How much are we actually spending? Not what's the bare minimum, but how much do we tend to go out and eat pizza 2 or 3, 4 times, 5 times a month? Is that $25, $50 a pop? How much do we spend on groceries a week when we're living the way we normally have been? So there are differences you're going to see, and be willing to be honest with yourself, guys. I'm talking from a position as someone who's made those mistakes. I'd love to tell you guys my testimony, my story at some point. Maybe I will in a future video. Finances is one of those situations that it beat me up for so many years, all the way through school. After school, it was just hanging over my head. And being on this side of the debt ball and being free from my student loans is just such a blessing. It's a freedom. It gives you control over your future instead of being under someone else's yoke, for lack of a better term. This video is going longer than I intended it to. I'm going to go ahead and stop it here. I have some more, so you can look for another video with some more pointers. Again, if you have any questions, any comments, by all means, let's hear them. Please go ahead and hit the like button. If you know anyone who might be interested, whether they're a trucker, wanting to be a trucker, or maybe another field, finances is that thing that's going to cover us all across the board. Something we all have in common. So take it easy. Again, this is Michael, teacher turned trucker. And as always, guys, just keep learning.